Hello and welcome to a quick look at the closed beta of Doom. Now before you think, wow, I've got restricted access, no, it's because I bought the pre-order of Wolfenstein The New Order and that got you early access to Doom. Now surprisingly, there's a lot of people on this game who have obviously never played Quake, because I seem to have a bit of an advantage having played Quake, having used a lot of these guns before in Doom and effectively Quake, and a lot of the power-ups are the same as Quake. This is kind of Quake light, that's how I describe it. It's not really Doom, but it's not really Quake, it's somewhere in between. Now Doom was never really a multiplayer game. It did have multiplayer, but it wasn't really what people wanted Doom for. Doom was the single player game, Quake was the multiplayer game. This one is trying to be a hybrid between the two. Now, in this closed beta, we're only getting to see the multiplayer. We don't get to see what the single player's like, but hopefully it's going to be okay. To be honest, I'd be buying Doom for the single player, not the multiplayer. Although this multiplayer is quite enjoyable. It's not a full arena shooter, it's not really a spectacle shooter, it's just kind of a fun shooter, to be honest. Really surprisingly, even though I didn't know any of these maps, I jumped kind of straight back into it. So I basically just built a loadout which had my two favourite weapons from the old days. So I'm using the rocket launcher and the lightning gun. Essentially one is just always on, the lightning gun, and you've got the rocket launcher which is still just a leap around, bounce around and fire rockets at people's feet. They're very simple weapons to use, but it's a really effective combo. There are pickups in the game, as you can see here. We've got pickup, and there's also the weird Revenant pickup which lets you run around as one of the monsters and basically fire rockets at people. I think that needs adjusting, it's not really very balanced. Neither are the hand-to-hand attacks. There's essentially a version of the Battlefield 4 backstab animation. I could do without that. I'd rather just run up behind them, club them and get on with it. The delay for the animation kind of takes it out of the fast-paced shooter and it doesn't really fit. But on the whole, the game seems to work really well. Now, unfortunately, it appears like there's only American servers for this game, and when I was playing, it was all Europeans, so we all had about 150 ping. But the netcode actually didn't seem that bad. It seemed to work. Now, because we were all having roughly the same ping, that might be something to do with it. I don't know what it's going to be like if you get somebody with a very low ping versus a bunch of Europeans at 150 ping. But at the moment, netcode seems to be fine. I know a lot of people are grumbling about the graphics settings and how they're having trouble running it. Now, it does seem to be capped at 50 frames per second, but I was running DxStory and recording the game and it was still running at 50 frames per second. Other people are saying they can't get it to run at all. I did have one slight problem where it didn't recognise my primary monitor as my primary monitor. The game keeps insisting on loading on my secondary screen, and then I have to change it in the graphics settings to go back to the secondary screen because the graphic settings still say it's on my main screen, and then set it back to my main screen and it will move back over. The game seems to work fine, but it just can't recognise what screen it should be running on. That's the only problem I've had with it so far. Like I say, seems to run fine at the 60 frames per second. It would be nice to get it up to 120 frames per second, but 60 is fine. This is, after all, a beta. So the action you've seen so far has been Team Deathmatch. What you're looking at now is actually Warpath. So this is kind of a mobile capture the flag. There's a pathway through the level that the flag will take. If your team holds it, it's going to move one way through the level. If the opposition hold it, it's going to move the other way through the level. And that's shown on the floor by those arrows. And the current location of the capture flag is a marker on the screen as well. So you don't actually have to follow these lines to get to your flag. In fact, you're probably going in the wrong direction. This took me a bit of a while to work out. What you do is essentially go to the location of the flag. If it's enemy, you need to stay in the zone around it, then you'll capture it. If it's yours, you need to defend it, but you don't need to be in the zone to defend it. So the defenders tend to roam around the area while the attackers actually have to get to the flag. And it does seem like a very good mode because the flag is constantly moving. The battle constantly moves, so you don't get a point where the flag is in a place where the defenders have got an advantage or the attackers have got an advantage, because it's going to keep on moving around the map, so the advantages change from one side to another, and it's a really interesting mode. Now there is one trap that Doom falls into, and it's customization. Unlocks, customization, add-ons, powering up, levelling up, it's all in there, and there's probably far too much of it. Yes, it's really nice to make your armour look different and different colours, but it doesn't really need it, and it doesn't really need to be an unlock to say look how high level I am, because you've got that little number next to your character that tells everybody what level you are. It's the same thing with weapon colour schemes. I really don't get this. You can make a weapon look really nice, you can make a weapon look bloody awful. Every character being a different colour with a different coloured weapon, fine. But really, do we need so many options, and do we need so many unlocks for it? Really don't think we do. Just let everybody customise their armour and weapons. You know, everybody can have a nice little effect on their armour, make it look different. Yes, I go for a dark colour scheme because it's got to be an advantage in a game to have a darker colour scheme, isn't it? Doom doesn't need to follow the model that other games are doing, because Doom is what a lot of the other games are copying. Doom and Quake are what are the source material for FPSs. So, Doom, have a little more confidence and just do what you want to do. Don't have to feel like you've got all this progression system that you need to put in. Don't feel like you have to copy all the other games because that's what the kids expect these days. Just be Doom. Okay. You're not really being Doom, you're more like being Quake, but if you're going to be Quake, be a good Quake. Now fortunately none of these things seem to spoil the game. I don't know if there are any power combos with these unlocks, but at the moment everybody just seems to be having fun. And that's what this game seems to be. It just seems to be a lot of fun. Now there's probably going to be a few rounds of the Doom beta put up while I'm off having surgery, so you will get to see it a bit more, but like I say, Doom so far is quite fun.